He was electrocuted by an 11,000 volt power line, not once, but twice. In this episode, I have the pleasure of interviewing Troy Hall, a survivor, a father, and a business owner who delves deep into his experiences of living through that horrendous experience. I'm Matt Jones, your host from this Health and Safety Unplugged podcast episode. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Enjoy. Troy, we'll kick off by giving you an opportunity to perhaps walk us through the day of your accident and perhaps what you saw as some of the key contributors to it.
Cool. So October 14th, 2011, I was electrocuted from a flashover 110,000 volt power lines or 110 kV. The first one killed me, the second one brought me back to life. It has been a bit of a journey. There has been a lot of lessons that I've learned from this. I suppose at those stages as well.
I imagine it's been a massive journey for you. If we think back to the incident, are there any key contribution or contributory factors that do you think that led to the event?
A lot of it was due to the type of attitude that I had back in those days. My background was, I was involved in a lot of, there's a lot of gangs, a lot of violence, drugs and alcohol back in the day. Even though I had quit months prior to all of it and wanted to change and completely change my whole life and the lifestyle and everything like that. What had happened was I still had that attitude of fearlessness. Didn't really care about, myself at that stage, even though I was still working on developing and I wanted to get back into my rugby, so I was training hard and getting back into all of that. But unfortunately, all I was really training for was survival of what I went through. Because if I hadn't been training, if I hadn't been, doing what I had done months prior, there's no way I would have survived this. So, there was definitely a blessing in between all of that. But at the same time, I suppose it was just, I look back now and I know the attitude was definitely in the wrong place. I didn't have care for myself. I didn't have care for the surroundings around me, health and safety, especially. That was the last thing on my mind at that stage. So I was always making the wrong choices. And looking at what I know now in terms of how, with power and electricity and earthing to the ground and seeing the way that I was and positioned at that time, it was just complete stupidity. But like I said, when you didn't have that right attitude, you didn't have your lack of knowledge as well. You didn't really know about it, but you didn't even care. So it was just that type of mentality that I had, I believe, was a big factor as to why I didn't see it as being a hazard at all. So I paid the ultimate price, nearly, I suppose, in that case, for having pretty much a shitty attitude towards it.
Yeah, and so if you could summarize how your attitude towards workplace safety in general has evolved since this incident, how would you summarize that?
Yeah, it's definitely completely changed. It's gone on the opposite side of that now. Obviously now running my own businesses, and I actually went back on a hydro ladder, the same thing that actually nearly cost my life. I jumped back on it because I knew that it wasn't the machine's fault, it was the operator, so I looked at it like I could get back on there and I could, as long as I was safe. But what I didn't realize was when I did run my own business, the importance of health and safety, because you as an owner, you are liable for all of that. So I didn't realize the importance of health and safety, really, because as owners, there are certain owners that take it really seriously, and you got others that are complete opposites. So, it is a choice. That's what I put it down to with my speaking and all that. Is definitely the fact that you do have a choice to either be safe or unsafe, running your business, having your workers be in a safe manner or not. And so it's made me realize that it's so important, not even just for the aspects of an owner and knowing the consequences of something if something serious happens, but just the safety of others, you know.
Mm.
A lot of owners don't really understand that until something really severely happens to their workers, and then all of a sudden, OSHA coming at you, WorkSafe, everyone's
Yeah.
coming at you, and then all of a sudden, if you haven't been following your procedures, you haven't been doing all of the things you're meant to do as an owner, then you're going to learn the hard way. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, you know, I learned the hard way as a worker going down this route, and I mean, even the owners at that time, they disappeared, you know.
Yeah.
So that was their choice, and it was quite gutless of them, in all honesty. But like I said, that was their choice. And but you know, me as a worker back then, going through what I went through, I would never wish this journey upon anybody, you know.
Yes.
So, you know, I look at it now as it's really important to put the message out there to people to understand the real importance of health and safety, and that it doesn't just affect you. It doesn't just affect the one person. It affects everyone around you, your family, your friends, your loved ones, and the company as well, especially when the companies incorporate, you know, putting it, you know, as key focus and priority on health and safety. And if you're not following the rules and not listening, I mean, I look at it like it's, you got to be grateful for a company that does have the right attitude towards it, because the company I worked for didn't. They didn't have any, they didn't care about it at all, obviously. And then when it happened to me, they disappeared. So yeah, that was a,
Yeah, and I think you've got quite a unique insight in that. On one hand, you were an employee for a business that clearly didn't really give a hoot, and now you are a business owner of multiple businesses, and it just makes me think about we've got current news stories right now where we're being told that businesses and employers are saying that the legislation is too hard to understand and they just don't get it. And from your perspective, from your unique perspective, would you agree with that, or do you think that that's got to do with the attitude that you were just describing?
50-50. Like, there is a lot more, it's a lot harder now to, you know, if you really want to understand health and safety, and this is me personally as well, I'm behind the eight ball on a lot of the information, a lot of the new legislation. You know, it goes on yourself to really focus on it if you really want to. Educate yourself, stay up with the play. But at the same time, you know, I do feel it's a bit over the top at times, but I mean, it's hard to say because, you know, being on the receiving end of it, you wish that people would take more care in their workers and realize that something severely could go wrong if they're not doing the things they're supposed to be doing, you know, toolbox meetings every morning, whatever it is, you know, making sure that people are not doing things that are dangerous, hanging from things or whatever, things that they shouldn't really be doing.
Yeah.
It's hard to say because obviously there's some, you know, obvious things that shouldn't be happening in the workplace. But I put it all down to culture and attitude as well. You know, if you've got a good culture around you that make people understand the importance of speaking up when things are not, you know, when you're doing things that you know are hazardous, you know, that are putting other people in danger, yourself, you should speak up about it. You know, you should really speak up about it. You should be able to say it in confidence without being told that you're a, you know, this is the old school wording, snitch, you know. And it's like it's very difficult because, you know, the culture takes a lot to change. You know, it takes certain people to be out of the positions of, you know, those key areas. And sometimes companies can't do that because they can't find any replacements. But then the downside to that can be the culture. You know, it's a negative culture. The attitude is wrong, but they're good operators. You know, it could be things like that. So there's a lot of factors in between for employers and management, foremans, they want to. If they had their way, they would flick them off in a heartbeat, but they can't. They got no one to replace. So
Yes.
this is where I'm 50-50 on it.
Yeah.
The legislation side of things can make it a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
And the more you put in, I think the more ill-disciplined people become. So it can be like, there's just too much, man. Like, you're not even going to listen to any of it, and then they just carry on anyway. So I don't know. It's, like I said, being an employee at one stage, I didn't care about health and safety at all. I had no care in the world for it. I'd done everything complete opposite, but that was due to the type of person I was, the type of personality I had back then too, and the type of people that I revolved myself around on a daily.
Yeah.
That can change your whole attitude on everything. And some people spend more time at work than they spend at home. So if that environment at work is like that, well, then they're not going to change at all.
Yes. Yeah.
So, no matter what you throw at them, as like, oh, you got to follow this, follow that, they'll tick the boxes, but they're not going to follow through. So, I don't know. It's 50-50 for me personally.
Yeah, cool. No, thank you for sharing your insights. It's really invaluable stuff, actually. It's probably underlining the importance of ensuring that whatever you do, it needs to be simple enough and not too much in terms of the message that you're trying to get across, but then also ensuring that you are getting buy-in and engagement with the people that you're actually trying to communicate with. So it's probably just ensuring that each party feels that they've got an equal say, and keeping it simple. It's probably getting us halfway there at least.
Yeah, that's right. It is, because it is a big thing. Like, for me personally, I do look at it like it can be over the top, but I understand what the managers have to do, what health and safety reps have to do. Everybody has to do their part, and they've got to follow within the criteria and everything. So, the people down in the working environment, and they don't understand how it all works. All they think is, you got another, but they don't understand insurance and premium policies and everything that has to be followed in order for them to be able to be covered if a worker gets injured or worse. So a lot of the workers don't understand that. They just turn up and do a 9 to 5.
Yes,
exactly what I was, right? So I do understand that, but now that I'm on the other front of it, on the other side, being an owner, now I understand, like, oh, okay, this makes sense now, and you're putting all of it together, and you can see why you've got employers that are really strict on it, and they don't care. They'll boot you in a second if you're not following through, because it affects them. So that's what people need to understand, especially the workers, the employees. They need to understand that it doesn't just affect you as the person if something happens. It affects everything within the company, the infrastructure, everything. So that's where I'm sort of probably lucky nowadays to be on both ends of it. I can relate to the workers and tell them in that aspect, this is why it's happening. It's not happening because they're just throwing stuff at you and more paperwork. They have to, otherwise they don't get covered. And then their business is vulnerable, and all of a sudden, like, you won't have a job, So there's all of these factors that, I'm starting to see on both ends now, and I've got to educate myself a lot more in terms of the, in the health and safety arena, in terms of what the policies are and everything. But I understand on both ends, like being the worker and also the owner now. So
no, it's amazing. It's quite a unique insight that you bring to the table. So that's why I'm really excited to have this opportunity to speak with you today and to share your story. So if you're happy to delve into this, I was wondering if you could share your recovery story and how that shaped up for you.
Yeah, so obviously when I got electrocuted, for the first 3 days of the early stages of my recovery, I wasn't even supposed to make it at all. So long story short, they had cut me for like 2 weeks. I was burning from the inside out like a microwave for like 2 weeks. And for the first 3 days, they were just constantly cutting. And so I'd have rotten flesh all around my whole body, all around. and they were having 18-hour, 20-hour surgeries just for the first 3 days, and
Wow.
it was amazing, man. The team at Middlemore, without them, there's no way I would be here. So, it's amazing on all aspects. Obviously, due to myself as well, being
Yeah.
able to get through it all.
Mm-hmm.
But without them as well, there's no way I'd be here today. So, to this day, I give them massive thanks. But when I did wake up a couple of weeks later, I realized that I couldn't move at all. I couldn't talk. I couldn't do nothing. And the doctors told me at that stage that I wasn't going to be able to walk or talk again. So it was really hard mentally to deal with that at that stage when I woke up and realized all this. But within a couple of months, I made my first couple of steps, which I was really proud of myself about. But it was more determination, like just to prove to not only themselves but myself that I was able to defy the odds and at least get a couple of steps in, because I tell you that being able to push through all of that, looking back now, I don't know how I done it, to be honest. It was just obviously resilience, but I think it was just, that was probably the gift of having the upbringing that I had. I was quite an arrogant person. I was very ill-disciplined. The authority wasn't too well. If someone would tell me that I couldn't do something, I would do it anyway.
Yeah.
So getting told that was obviously probably the gift of that time, having that attitude, because I didn't listen to them and I wanted to do what I knew I could do. So, but going down that path, it was a couple of years before I could even be able to do like 30 seconds on a treadmill, and this was after daily rehab every single day, trying to push, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and just being able to feed myself and change myself, tie my own shoelaces took many years, a couple of years at least. There was just a lot of factors that we all take for granted, and until you lose it all, you don't realize and understand the importance of, just basic movement.
Yeah.
We wake up some mornings, with an ungrateful attitude, and some days it's viable for that. But, me going through what I've been through, I can't tell you that I've come out the other end, because I'm still battling a lot of this mentally. There's a lot of mental things that I'm still dealing with personally, and it does stop me from pushing forward. But at the same time, I've just looked at it like I need to be grateful and be proud of the achievements that I've had to this day. Yeah, it's been pretty difficult, some days.
Yeah, I mean, God, I can only imagine. It's just remarkable, and I guess it's sometimes the power of looking back to remind yourself how far you've come, right? Because it's just unbelievable, really. And then in terms of where you're at today, so obviously you're now running your own businesses. I'm right in thinking you're also a family man as well.
Yeah, I've had my beautiful baby girl a couple of years after the accident, right? So, she has been the real purpose and the real reason I'm still here today, in all honesty, because if I only had myself to look after, or even think about, I wouldn't be here. I would have committed suicide a long time ago. I already know this for a fact, because there would have been no purpose. There's no reason, and no real reason to push through. Possibly, but I highly doubt it, because there was many times where I was about to do it, and the thing that stopped me was the fact that I didn't want my baby girl growing up without a father, so, and she was a miracle to begin with, right? So that was the reason why I wanted to push on and push through, and I'm glad I've done it, because she is my blessing, man, and she keeps me going every day. Some days when times are hard, when there's a lot of darkness, she's that speck of light that keeps me going. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Amazing, Troy. Look at it. I guess it probably just underscores the significance of us having this conversation. I think you have got a ton of value insights to share and to offer the world. Beyond just this recording, and I know you've done a fair amount of public speaking, and you've taken this back to industry to share your story. And so in terms of that, in terms of perhaps even the broader health and safety industry, what are some of the key things that you would want to share or to impress upon them based on your journey and your experience?
It really is just about having the right attitudes, making the right choices. It's hard to say, like, really, I've always been a person, even with the background that I came from, in terms of, coming from that gang culture and lifestyle and all of that. I was always trying to help people in there too, right? But a lot
Yeah.
of them were people that didn't want to be helped, or they'll take what they could at that time, and taking the kindness for weakness, unfortunately, on my front. But looking at it nowadays, I feel that, I do have value to offer in a lot of areas, a lot of industries, a lot of people, because a lot of the employees in a lot of the sectors, when I do my public speaking, I can look and I can pretty much tell straight away the type of, without being judgmental, but I can sort of see that they come from that culture or that lifestyle as well. It's pretty obvious. It can be, it's almost like a spiritual thing on my front. I can sort of see it. And it's trying to relate to them the importance of it, because I've been in there. I know what it feels like. I know mentally how everything can be very challenging in terms of life outside of work and all of that. So when you're coming into work, you're not realizing, the things you are doing are quite hazardous, or they're not good for you. They're not good for the company. They're not good for the workspace, and they're not good role models for the others that are coming up in there, the younger guys or the newbies. It's trying to create that culture and just have a good culture, a good attitude, and making the right choices. I mean, I always put it back to that, because I know I was never making the right choices. I never had the right attitude, and I nearly paid the ultimate price. So being able to give people that insight of what I used to be like to what I am now, and I'm not saying at all that I'm perfect, because I'm far from it, but there are times I slip back into my old ways, and those are things that I'm working on personally. But all in all, I feel that there is a lot of relation with employers as well, and obviously foremen, managers.
Yeah.
We are all just human at the end of the day, so it's just a matter of trying to get the message out there as much as possible. The importance of, it's not even health and safety, it's your life. You have your life, self-care, self-worth, self-love. It sounds all corny for a lot of the fellas that I talk to, because a lot of them obviously don't have that for themselves. But once you get down that path and you go down that track of realizing that it actually does play a big key role in everything you do in life, not even just at work. It creates a better culture, I reckon. Just a better culture, I think.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like, you've actually got me thinking back to 2 or 3 previous clients of mine who they're in the kind of what's considered the rough and tough type industries, right? So concrete pouring, scaffolding, roof workers. Generally, it's a rough rule of thumb. You'll find that there's usually substance abuse issues in those industries, gang affiliations, pretty gnarly backgrounds, pretty gnarly lifestyles outside of work. And there's 2 or 3 companies that spring to mind immediately that have really managed to help smash through that. And what they all have in common is that there's a real sense of connectedness within those companies. That they've really fought hard about the whole health, well-being side of things, and got well beyond the fruit bowl in the cafeteria or in the staff room, right? That they really embraced sporting events, getting outside of the workplace and actually spending time with each other as human beings, and not just rocking up for the 9 to 5. It sounds like that's very much what you're endorsing, right? Is that importance of community support within the workplace, but also outside of the workplace as well. Is that about right?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is like, if you're a smaller company, you're
Mm,
working with, what they like doing outside of work, because obviously
yeah.
everyone's got a hobby, everyone's got passions, and it's not about, what you're doing substance wise or whatever, drinking,
Mm,
if that's your thing, but
yeah.
it's more about, um, it could be sports, it could be, certain things that they're really into. And if you've got the culture like that and they're all into the same thing, well, then that's what you need to really sort of give them, I think personally,
Mm,
make value them more than just workers, get actually, and then what happens is they start. What I've learned, as negative as gang cultures are, what I've realized is the brotherhood.
mhm,
When everybody's all together and
yep.
everybody communicates with each other and they all,
Mm,
they love each other.
mm,
They've got love
yeah.
for each other, and it's because they all share the same things and they
Mm,
do the same things. There's
mm,
a lot of times where a lot of us loved our sports and we
yep.
didn't really do it much, but when we did, you could feel that, brotherhood, you're all
Mm,
together. And so I think in a working environment, as owners, I feel that you need to give them, I don't know, I just went and worked for a company
mhm,
and they were out playing basketball at lunchtime,
nice. Yep.
and it was just cool. They were just,
Mhm,
who could shoot the furthest away, and it was
mhm,
just, it just connects everybody. And yeah,
mm.
yeah, we're off to work, back to work, and they work hard,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. So
Mhm,
I think what happens is when you can connect with, you know, the boys or
mhm,
the women
yep.
in a way that goes outside of work,
Mhm,
and it means that you value them more and you actually
mm,
doing things that they like doing, and then they start respecting you more as an owner, and they'll
yes.
work hard for you and they'll do it safely if that's what you're putting into your, key roles in working as well.
Mhm,
Yeah, hey, don't do it like that, and they'll listen, because they don't want to lose. What happens is you can go to a job
mm,
and you might get paid real good money, but if you got a shitty culture and environment, that's not going to last long, Uh,
mhm,
but if you've got a good culture, people that actually they'll want to turn up every day to work for you and do it safely if that's your key messages and part of all of that. And so, yeah, it can be. Yeah. I don't know
mm.
what else to say from there, really.
Oh man, that's no, you don't need to say anything more. It's brilliant. It's so good. It's
That's
so
amazing.
good. Yeah, I mean, what you're saying really kind of it hits home to me. That's my gut tells me that is exactly what the solution is. Like in terms of, there's a lot of people out there scratching their heads, wondering why we haven't been able to turn the stats around in New Zealand for over a decade plus. We're being completely outperformed by our Aussie neighbours, and the UK is just smashing us out of the park in comparison to workplace fatalities and injuries. And I really think what you've just described is such the right step in the right direction that we ought to be taking, is just in terms of building community, building mana within the work environment, respect for each other, and then adding in a dose of health and safety and all the other parts of the puzzle that
Sure.
make up a successful company. And we'll be home and hosed. It's really not that complicated. Um, but unfortunately, it's become like that. I think it has been overcooked, and it's just become a bit of an add-on when really it's just not necessary at all.
Yeah, I just feel like if you give respect to your workers and
Mm,
then you imply your things that you need to happen, be more they'll be more respectful, I believe, in that area. They're like, oh, okay, we'll do it.
mhm,
You know,
yep,
See,
yep,
at the moment, if you're just grinding them, and there's no sort of like initiative for it. There's, like apart from getting paid, but a
yes,
lot of
yeah,
workers, a lot of owners just use that, we pay
mhm,
well. Yeah,
mhm,
well, I
yep,
mean, what do you want? Do
yeah,
you want to pay people well and then be unsafe, or do you want
mm,
people to actually, you know, I don't know. I know
mm,
it's pretty hard in this economic times, right? It's very
mhm,
difficult. It is. That's why it's hard for me to say that, because owners
sure,
will straight away tell me, well, it's not cheap. It's not
mhm,
easy to do that, especially when you're on a big
mm,
scale of it. And I understand that.
mhm,
I'm not going to be the person that would, you need to spend, I
Mm.
wouldn't say money, but time and money on, your workers, the people that are down there. Without them, there is nothing, right? So
Correct.
you need to give them incentive, sorry. You need to give them something to look forward to as well, or work towards, give them goals to set, there's all of these things, and it's easy for me to say, like I said, as a business owner, because it's not exactly like I'm a big scale, so I don't understand the real, how hard it really is, and I'm sure it's very difficult.
Yes.
But I know enough to be able to, like me as a worker, because I know what I used to like as a worker. Now that I'm the boss, I do that to my workers, and they respect me. And not one person that I could say that's been under my belt could tell me that I've been a bad employer. I've actually, if anything, I've done too much for my workers. But that's just to make them understand that when I need things done, they were there and they would always turn up. So that was probably the big thing about it. So
I love it. I love that. I love the point about them turning up, right? It's because we've got a tight market where there's, a real shortage of skilled workers and unskilled workers in New Zealand. And then we've got business owners that are scratching their heads, wondering why they can't retain their staff. You've just shown them the way, right? It's just showing a bit of respect, investing a little bit in time and energy, not just money, and it will be repaid in tenfold. Now it's not always going to be perfect, but I suspect you'll see a significant change in your current kind of environment. So yeah, amazing stuff. I'm just mindful of time, Troy. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm really keen to hear more from you. So, and I'm sure many people who are tuning in will as well. Is there an easy way to find out a little bit more about you? Are you on social media at all?
Yeah, so I am in development of all that. I've had that for many years. People telling me to really, set up properly. It's been hasn't been a strong point of mine, marketing and social media. I mean, I do what I do, but I've got a Facebook, Troy Hall, Mr. Crispy. We call it Mr. Crispy because sort of comes down to the whole concept of it gets everybody talking, I suppose. So I have that on my Facebook. But yeah, I'm definitely working on getting a website developed.
Good.
Start getting a lot of video content out there as well. I'm in talks to my friend at the moment to get all that. He's a videographer, so we're going to start doing all of these little short clips and stuff like that about encouraging, looking after yourself, obviously health and safety, all of the things that I want to cover. And the youth is a real big thing for me. I really want to get involved with especially troubled youth because obviously I was one of them. So I can understand with a lot of them as well and relate with them to make the right choice before they go down the wrong path.
Yes. Yeah.
Because unfortunately I should have followed my sports. I knew that I was really good at it, and unfortunately I just went down the wrong path. So what I'm trying to incorporate now, what I really want to do is collaborate with other, people to just try and be that person that can put them on the right path, because it's very difficult. It's very difficult to go down that path. And it's just something that I'm really passionate about. I also want to be a part of the Burns group as well, which I am. But we do a kids camp every single year. So Burns Support Charitable Group. They're awesome people as well. I mean, really, once I get it all up and running properly, I'll be able to be a bit more.
Man, it sounds like you've got your hands full.
What I'm doing, But at this stage, I'm trying to do it all by myself, and it's not really that great at the moment. But
and it's all good. It's all good. It sounds like maybe there's a few of us in the broader social community that might be able to lend a hand there as well. So
that'd be appreciated.
It's all good. I'll put a few together. It's awesome. It's awesome. Your story is too important not to get it out there. So I'm sure a few of us will be able to lend a hand. You and I have definitely got a few more things to talk about offline. Definitely getting you on stage. There's no doubt about that. So watch this space, everybody, because this is just too important to not hear more from. Thank you so much for your time, but probably more importantly, it's just your openness and transparency, Troy. It's just incredible, really, what you're doing.
No, I appreciate your time, mate. Thank you very much.
Cool. All right. Well, let's take care of yourself, and I will be in touch.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank
Thank
you.
you, mate.
Troy, it's so good, buddy. Like, thank you. I'm just gonna
That
stop
was all good.
recording.